Hello and welcome to my new series where I'll be building an entire LEGO castle kingdom from start to finish. This is going to be my biggest and most detailed LEGO creation so far, and hopefully throughout this series you'll get to learn some really interesting LEGO techniques and get plenty of inspiration for your own LEGO builds, because I'll be showing you all of my work in progress as I construct this massive LEGO layout. So in each episode I'm going to be showing my progress in the different parts of this layout, and I'm not going to build this up in any particular order because I have a lot of inspiration for many different areas in this castle kingdom, and I'm just going to see how it goes and build each part as I feel like it. But for this first episode it's going to be a bit different because I'd like to give you a quick overview of some of my plans for this layout. By the end of this series I'm going to have this all filled up with a bunch of different scenery, buildings, and of course a giant castle, which will be situated in this corner of the layout, where I'm going to be building a massive mountain that's going to be part of my working LEGO waterfall, which I've done a separate video on if you'd like to check that out in more detail. And basically that waterfall is going to connect to the rest of a gigantic mountain, with the entrance to the castle coming off this road here, and that's going to wind all the way up the mountain. And of course I'm going to include all of the things that you need in any good castle, such as a gatehouse, a keep, with a working drawbridge, and functional portcullis. And that's another thing which I'm really going to try and do throughout this build, is include lots of working and moving components to make it really interesting and very unique, and make this display really come to life. So in this third of the layout, that's going to be the castle, but then over in the middle here, I'm planning on building a medieval and Middle Ages inspired city, and this is also going to be super exciting, because as you can see I've already made the start on one of the buildings, which is also a work in progress I should mention, and we'll get to that very soon. All of these buildings will feature different designs and various colour schemes, and I think that combination will make it really interesting and really make it look like a busy medieval city. And there's definitely a lot of options for the types of stores and buildings that I can include, and I think it'll be really fun to see the entire city built up slowly over time. But basically my idea for this area is this is going to be a city which starts with this road, and you can see I'm making use of a bunch of really unusual 3D LEGO base plates. And that road is going to wind all the way through the city until it reaches this back area, which is actually going to open up into a docks area, which will include things like a port, a pier, some dockside buildings, and plenty of cargo, and all of that will surround a small slice of ocean. And now's a good time to highlight another really unique and interesting part of this layout, and that is that the entire thing is raised up on these mini wooden tables, which basically elevates this entire layout up by one level. And there's a couple of reasons that I chose to do this. One of them being that not only can I build stuff over on the top of this layout, but I can also build things underneath, such as this area near the harbour. This is going to be a underwater section, complete with these really cool underwater raised base plates. Just imagine how cool this is going to look once it's decorated with lots of fish and coral and other marine life and aquatic details. And I'll also probably include some sort of background so that you can't see the legs from this underwater area. But that works out so well, especially with these transparent base plates which let in a lot of light and really illuminate the front of this section. And something like this also frees up thousands of LEGO bricks, which would otherwise just be hidden away underneath the structure where you wouldn't even see them, and instead I can use those same pieces to build actual interesting things that you'll be able to see in the main layout. Another big advantage for this type of design is, as you might know, I love including lots of functionality and complicated Technic mechanisms powered by motors and battery boxes and things like that. And having all of this raised up will allow me to neatly conceal all of these extra components underneath the layout when they're nice and out of the way, and that way I have more space on top to build stuff. So these wooden tables are custom designed, and in case you're wondering what these individual tables look like, obviously they're all different sizes, but this one in particular is designed to be the same length and width as a 16 by 16 base plate. And I just think something like this is better achieved using actual wooden supports, which are also stronger, and they work out really nicely. So heading back around to the front, let's continue with the plan for my Lego Castle Kingdom. And let's finish up with this side, and this is going to be a combination of different areas. So first of all, over at the back here, I'm planning on having some kind of woodland area with a forest and lots of trees, and maybe some Robin Hood type characters. So basically a lot of wilderness and nature. And then this beige base plate over here, that's actually going to be the location for a farm, and that will include a little field with plenty of farm animals, and maybe even a windmill or a barn or something like that. I think a windmill could work really well and add a lot of movement and motion to this area. And again, all of this is just a rough plan, what I have in mind for each of these areas, and obviously I'll do a whole lot more landscaping once I begin working on each of these sections of my castle kingdom. But I'd also love to hear your ideas and suggestions, so please let me know in the comments below. It'd be great to hear your ideas, and I'll definitely take them into consideration. For the final part of this episode, let's take a closer look at the first building in my medieval city, which is the inn. This is obviously still under construction, that's why there's a few colours that need to be replaced, and some bits which still need to be built. But I thought this would give you a good idea of the size and the type of buildings that I'll be going for in this city section. And you can see this includes several really interesting techniques which are very unusual, and you just don't get to see this type of design in any modern buildings. And that includes this cool wall design, which is a bit like a Tudor style building, or is actually called wattle and daub, that particular effect. And once I remove the roof and some of the levels in the interior, I'll show you a bit more of how I actually built that. But before I do that, let's have a quick look at the rest of the exterior, and that's probably easiest to see if I temporarily remove it from the rest of the landscape. And from here we can actually turn the inn around, so you can see a bit better some of the other sides of the building. Because my thinking for this inn is that it's going to be a more expensive type of building in the city, since this inn in particular is backed by the king, as indicated by the sign outside the front door. So it's going to be for the more wealthy citizens in this town, and because of that it's going to be a bit more well kept and use a bit better and higher quality construction materials. So some examples of that are the stone detailing around the outside, and that's a very random effect, and it's always fun building these types of random castle stones. They're always great fun to put together. And it's also got some other more higher quality materials, such as these roof tiles, which I'm experimenting with for a roof design. These are actually using the Lego fences clipped to these large plates, and I think that works out really nicely for a very fancy looking roof. And I'd also like to point out some other areas of detail. You can see I've used some fences there for some windows inside, and also some more of those same types of fences for some stained glass windows on this bottom floor in this wooded section. And they look even better once the roof is removed, and that will let a whole lot more light through. So we'll get to that very soon. And then over on this side, I'm constructing a chimney, which will eventually poke out of the top of this inn. Although I'm thinking maybe that chimney will look a bit better if it's just extended out a couple of bricks this way, so it will have a bit more thickness to it, and it will just look a bit more stronger and provide a bit more contrast to the yellow and black wood. Around the other side, I've continued the corner with this very cool angled design. And then I have used a couple of printed panel pieces for these bits, along with some of these cool black structure pieces, and they look very fancy. but the idea is that's some kind of carved wood or something like that. And again, that fits with the whole more expensive and more wealthy theme that I'm going for this inn in particular. So now let's take a look at the inside. And to do that, let's remove some of these levels to take a better look inside. And we'll start with the first floor. So this is the bit where all of the customers and patrons can go in and grab something to eat and have a rest. And you can see this includes a small restaurant area which I'm designing. Basically that includes a few tables at the back with some stools, and they're actually a really cool design that are made out of these large black pieces. So if I grab one of those, I'll show you what I mean. So here is that black wooden carved structure, and you can see they include these bits at the bottom that actually extend outwards. So I thought rather than hiding those up somewhere in the structure, I'd actually turn them into some stools for these tables. And I think they go super well with each of the tables there. And that will look even better once it's full of customers enjoying their dinners and drinks. So this is also built directly on top of this raised base plate, and that's why it's a little bit funky looking inside with the whole spacing of all these parts. But basically, if we start at the actual entrance, you can see straight away you're greeted with this large fire with axes above it. And then over on this side, I've included this very cool printed piece from the classic Lego castle sets. And behind that you can see some of the stained glass windows. So this area I'm not quite sure what to do with, because as you can see this includes a printed swimming pool, which is what this raised base plate was used for originally in the original set that it was available in. And I sort of want to include that inside this inn. I'm thinking maybe that could be some kind of bath or something like that. I know it doesn't really make too much sense being right next to all of the tables, but that's just such a cool design with that printed water effect, and I really want to include that somehow into this design rather than just covering up with these types of tiles. And another thing, I will tile this over with some smooth tiles so it's a bit more gradual and so it looks a bit nicer. But if you have any ideas for what I could use this water bit in the inn for, then please let me know, because I'd actually appreciate your suggestions for that part in particular. And then next to that is the staircase, which goes up to the second floor. So let's reattach that and take a look at the second floor. It's a little bit dark in here because it's all currently made out of the black wooden plates. I might brighten that up with some lighter colours. I'll see how it goes. And some of the details I've included so far are this broom hanging on the wall, and there's the back of those windows which you saw earlier. And then since this is an inn, an old-fashioned hotel, you have to have some hotel rooms for the guests to stay. That includes 3 separate rooms, and each of these features a little door which can be opened up. So one of them opens inwards and the other 2 open outwards, and that's just a nice cozy little room for any travellers or visitors from other parts of the kingdom. And they will even include a few details such as this lectern with a scroll being written on there in this corner room, and then the other rooms just include a couple of beds. Although this one with the green bed includes this nice balcony that provides a very good view. Well, obviously that will be turned around to face the harbour and the ocean, but that's the same type of concept. And while we're here, I thought it'd be a good time to point out some of the interesting design which goes into this wooden wattle and daub or Tudor style of construction. And this is an especially interesting technique because this pattern is made entirely out of different colour Lego bricks. The first one is on the side of the inn, and this is made out of these sloped bricks. So you have the regular slopes and the inverted slopes, and then some different tiles in between them. So you can see how I've actually made those out of some tiles, and they're actually sandwiched in between those 2 pieces, just with a brick that holds those tiles in place. and that's a fairly standard design in the Lego castle community, but I'm still really happy with how that's turned out, and I think that works especially well paired with the second technique, which is actually these hinges on the side. So if I attach this back onto the main building, you'll see what I mean. And with that part back in place, you can see how it combines with the bricks on their sides for this bottom section, and that really makes these wooden beams look like they're all in the same place. So I'm really happy with the spacing. And then for the actual hinges, well, you can see it on this side. They actually provide a nice bit of angling to the building, and that actually makes it look a lot more interesting rather than just having a straight wall. That's also quite realistic, because a lot of these medieval buildings weren't built using the strongest construction methods, and they do end up a bit bent over time. So maybe this inn has just been here a while, and it's gradually warped from the top floors due to the weight of the roof. But either way, that just adds a bit more visual interest and makes it a much more interesting shape. And the second part which I want to highlight is this little section, and I'm actually going to use this for one other building in my castle kingdom, and this is actually the same design. So this bit, I actually found this technique from a Lego castle blog. I'll leave a link to that in the description, and that is a very cool technique because this is made out of those 1x2 slope pieces with some regular 1x1 tiles in the middle, and that works super well. It looks great in all colours, especially at the front of my inn. I'm really satisfied with how that part of the wall has turned out as well. Apart from that, the other main parts which I've got to finish up on this inn are these bits on the roof, because I'm thinking of having another small little window poking out at the top here, the chimney at the back, and maybe doing something interesting with this part of the roof at the back as well. But for that, I'll need to order a few more of these fence pieces, because I've thoroughly used up my supply of these fences in this inn. But I think it was worth it, because the end result is just so cool, and that's a great centerpiece for the start of this city, and I'm really excited to see how that will combine with the other buildings that I'm going to build into my castle kingdom. So I hope you enjoyed the first episode, and if you did, then please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more Lego creations. I'll still be doing all my regular videos and how to build tutorials, but this is just going to be an additional exciting series that I'll have going on at the same time. I'd love to hear your thoughts and ideas, so please let me know if you have any suggestions. As I mentioned, I am aiming for a semi-realistic medieval/Middle Ages inspired design, but I might include a few more fantasy elements here and there, so you might see a wizard or two dotted about the layout. I'll see how it goes. And until then, I'll see you guys next time with even more Lego creations and the next update to my Lego Castle Kingdom. A big thank you to all of my supporters on Patreon, and thanks for watching.